I gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. Put it in the soul of everyone.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-hosts, Rex and Mike. Friends, today we are blessed with the one and only, the legendary Saint, Richard Lynch, Matt Smith, and Jared Nolan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege, guys. Thank you for blessing us today. And got some exciting news coming up. We have a new Saint album, friends. It should be dropping. Rich, when might it be dropping? When might Heaven Fell drop?
I hope before September, but it's just going to be in that area.
Right.
They're in the process of being printed right now.
Awesome. So, friends, yes, the album is Heaven Fell, and by the time this airs, this will be in September, so it should be out there available for you. I believe, Rich, and correct me if I'm wrong, the place, Retroactive Records is putting them out. That means Boone's Overstock, friends, is where you can order and pre-order. And then you can also go to saintsite.com. Is that right, Rich?
Yes.
All right. So, friends, the album is Heaven Fell. Good things come to those who wait. The last time, Rich, whenever you were on, thanks for coming back. And Matt and Jared, again, welcome. And it's great to meet you guys. Good things come to those who wait. Because, Rich, you were on as far back as July 15th. Yeah, July 15, 2021. And we were discussing Heaven Fell. And you let us, we were privy to a few demos you guys were working on. It was anticipated. You said that you said maybe toward the end of that year we could see it. But here we are, and it's going to be September of this year, 2022. The end result did not disappoint. But, gentlemen, I got to ask, good things come to those who wait, but why the extra year with releasing the material?
Well, that would be a Jared question.
Yeah. That one's a little mostly on me. No, we just had a bunch of life stuff come up. We ended up moving studios, and just it's been absolute chaos, and through COVID and everything else. It was quite the adventure. So unfortunately, it got kind of pushed to the back burner at times.
Understandable. Now, Jared, is Burley Sound Studio? Is that your studio?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Now, since we're talking about that, Rich, I think he mentioned, and guys, correct me where I'm wrong, do you guys do most of the recording at your studio for your albums, Jared?
Yeah, and everybody also has their own kind of home studios too, and so sometimes we can fly tracks back and forth that way. But yeah, it's we do a lot of the big stuff at my place, and then fill in the gaps everywhere else.
Okay. Gentlemen, was this experience between the excellent album The Calf and between Heaven Fell, because it's the same solid lineup, and this lineup's been together for roughly 5 years now. Compared to The Calf, compared to Heaven Fell, was this maybe an easier process, or did it seem like about the same, or a little bit more difficult for any reason?
Well, for me, it was easier. I didn't have to write any of the lyrics or melodies.
So did David write all the lyrics for the most part or not?
Yes, for probably 99% of the lyrics were written by David and the melodies.
Okay.
Well, I've noticed, and gentlemen, we'll get into the songs. I want to talk certainly about those, but I noticed that pretty much everybody had contributions. Matt, I saw your name on several of the tunes and saw Jerry's name on several of them. And You know, Rich is laughing. I don't know. What's up, Rich?
That's because I was teasing him all the way through there that we were going to rename the band Matt Smith and Friends because he wrote so many songs.
Well, there's certainly some great songs on this album, Heaven Fell. Now, gentlemen, let's start at the exterior. I personally, I'm a firm believer in having good quality cover art. I personally believe that for me, from my experience with the band, because I'm a total package album guy, I do believe that the cover, it sets the initial tone for an album and will either support or detract from the audible art within. You guys, it's knocked out of the park. The cover art is awesome to Heaven Fell. Please tell us about this wonderful cover art from Dakin Costello. Was this commissioned or was this discovered somewhere?
Well, you know, I'm not sure how he came up with it, but I thought it was cool when he showed it to me. And so that's about as much as I have, you know, available to me. He is my son-in-law, so I could easily ask him. Yes.
Okay, that wasn't a loaded question. I had no idea he was your son-in-law, but my hat's off to him because it's a marvelous cover.
And as Kent said, I mean, it really catches your eye right from the get-go. You see that cover art and you're like, man, this is, I mean, it fits the music perfectly. It's just, this is going to be an awesome album.
Well, you know, cover art is something that is missing in a lot of music today. You know, because it's all downloaded. I miss those days of going in and buying an album and opening it up and reading the credits and feeling it and touching it and smelling it and putting it in. Yeah. So, but Dakin did some other artwork for us too, like a lot. So he's very good.
Yeah, like I've worked the last 12 years worth.
Yeah.
I actually worked with Dakin even before I was with Saints. He used to do stuff for some of my old bands back in the day, and the guy's just brilliant. But he's one of those that he'll sit down with the album and listen to it, and then he just envisions what you get, and it does, like you said, it all connects together. It all kind of sets the tone, because he kind of works in that way. He uses the music to inspire what he's going to do visually.
So, and friends, I don't have like Rich mentioned, Heaven Fell is being printed as we speak, probably. Forgive me, Dakin, because I forgot that you actually did the cover art for the calf, which was also wonderful. I had to go back and look, and sure enough, Dakin Costello. Let me ask you, guys, let me revert to something while I have you, because I've always wondered. In the background here, above the calf is an S and an F, and then it looks like an I and an N. Does any of that stand for anything? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was taken. Where was that at, Jared? That's out in Albany somewhere.
Yeah, that was in Albany, and it's out kind of in the middle of this forest down there, in one of the city parks. There's this weird structure, and it's just been graffitied to death, and we had to blur a lot of it out.
Okay,
but yeah, that's all it is.
Okay, I'm one of those guys. I'm going to nitpick every little thing, scour all the lyrics. I'm one of those nerds. So. But we're here today. The calf was great. We're talking about Heaven Fell. You guys also got the dream team of Scott Waters on the layout and design and Rob Caldwell with the mastering. So friends out there, it's going to be great. Not to mention the music. Saint absolutely delivers in spades, and we'll get to that.
Where the embers often linger, give the warmth of afterburn, looking for the empty armor, fallen soldier, empty soul, empty armor, empty soul, fallen armor, fallen soul.
The music guys. Now, Rich, you kind of corrected me. I always want to say, to me, Saint's a power metal band, but it's just straight up molten metal, as we can expect from Saint. The same great lineup. Guys, do y'all get together often and practice?
No.
No.
No, we do not.
So was any of the album, were all of you guys all together for doing any of the songs for the album, or you were just all in your own studios, like you said earlier?
I went to Burley Studios for one guitar track. I brought down.
Yeah.
I've got a handmade classical guitar. I'm a classically trained guitarist. I have a classical guitar, and I did the tracks with this Godin electric guitar, and Jared's like, no, we're not gonna have that on this album. And I was like, okay.
Shout out to Godin though, great company.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. It's a kind of addicting guitar to play if you're a classical guitar player, because it's so easy to play. But so I brought I had a custom made guitar, got a bunch of them classical guitars. I took one down to Oregon on one of Richard and I's crabbing trips, and went in there for about a half hour.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Knocked it out. And was that on the calf, or was that on this one? I think that was on the calf. That was on the calf. So no, I didn't even do anything on this album in Burley Studios.
Yeah, no, I think all your stuff you sent in. We did.
Sorry about that. I got the albums mixed up.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
And Jared, if I could ask you another question, Jared, how did you get into production and all of that? I'm assuming you're a musician also. So I was just curious how you got into producing it.
Yeah, well, so I kind of grew up in a musical family. I grew up on tour. My parents are musicians. And my dad actually was a producer, and still is at times. And I grew up kind of on the other side of the glass as a performer. And when I was, 22, 23, I kind of got into it a little late. I had some friends that were making a record, and they wanted to borrow some of my equipment, just amps and drums and stuff that was a little better than what they had for the sessions. And I ended up staying and hanging out for the project, and kind of accidentally produced it, and they gave me the first credit on it. And I was like, oh, so that's how you do that. And then I just kind of went nuts with it. And now I'm hundreds of records in. And it's just, it's a blast. I love it.
Awesome.
So guys, the songwriting and creativity process, was it about the same as the calf? Meaning, so Matt, you mentioned that, you guys, and I understand, guys, the recording process by and large is probably different today than it was in yesteryear, to where, if you guys have the right equipment at home, you guys can record and then send it all in. And Jared, you might take it and compile it. Is that how the majority of this album was recorded with Heaven Fell, or what was the process for this album?
Well, like on my end, I write a lot. And so I use drum machines, and, I play bass and layer guitar and do all that stuff. And I would just send, stuff to Richard, and he would give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. What happens to it after that is kind of up to them. The stuff they like, Rich will say, oh, I really like, this, like The Chosen One. So then I got to go back to the drawing board and re-record it according to specs that Jared won't thumb his nose at and call me and tell me to fix it. So I've learned a lot about doing that from these guys, making sure my tracks aren't peaking, making sure my levels aren't too hot, making sure my punches are clean, if there are any, which there are very few, but making sure my punches are clean. So that is, like, of the few songs that I put on there, I pretty much write them, do kind of a rough drum program of them, lay some bass on it. But like The Chosen One was an amazing song because Richard wanted me to switch from Pro Tools to Reaper, right? And I just fought both of them. They both wanted me to go to Reaper, Jared. And I said, no, I'm using Pro Tools. And so my computer crashed, and I called Rich and said, all right, my computer crashed. I'm going to do a fresh install of Reaper. I'm going to start over with Reaper, just see how it goes. So I got Reaper installed, got my modules installed and everything installed, and I plugged in my guitar, and I just pretty much played The Chosen One in like 15 minutes. Those were just some riffs that I just did, and I listened to him and I thought, wow, that's kind of a cool riff. And an hour later, the song was done. Right. So then I sent it out to Rich, said, hey, look what I did on Reaper. And he's like, this is a great song. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We'll go ahead and do whatever with it. And then like 2 days later, it came back to me with Dave's vocals. And I was just, my jaw hit the floor. I just couldn't believe it. But like that one particular song was a complete accident. And I love it. It's one of my favorite songs.
I'm going to put the cart ahead of the horse on this one particular song, Chosen One, because guys, I honestly, and I want to just touch base on every song, time permitting, without getting too deep into it. But let's talk about the Chosen One. I'm going to choose this one. There are two songs that I would consider like radio singles from Heaven Fell, and I love the whole album. I really do. To me, I could hear this as a radio single, the Chosen One. The other, my other choice is Heaven Fell for a radio single. But Matt, you and Dave with the lyrics, I got some notes here. I said it's a saucy little number that's quite catchy. A radio single, killer soloing. Now, between you and Jerry Johnson, all the songs just have killer soloing. And Jared, I know Rich mentioned to me that all you guys kind of do other things within the band. Like Matt, you might play bass on some stuff. And Jared, do you play guitar or bass on any songs?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah,
so I remember Rich telling us that last time. So I don't really know who did what. But
neither do we at this point.
Playing it by ear.
Or he's not going to tell us.
Yeah.
I'm getting this sense that a lot of stuff happens by accident. I mean, Jared said he kind of became a producer by accident, and Matt said he wrote the Chosen One by accident, and it kind of sounds like the whole album just kind of came together by accident.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
If you guys would entertain my nerdiness, I'd like to, and I'm doing this for the viewers who might not, by the time this airs in September, if they haven't already picked this great album up, hopefully I can whet their appetite in some manner. Here's some lyrical snippets that I believe Dave wrote. The evil is rising, the elders losing grip, the children are worried there's no one to forgive. In the morning they will sacrifice to live forever and ever and choose a life to live in paradise. I am the chosen one, and I talk to the devil with an angel's tongue. Into the mighty water will be thrashed and torn. Guys, what are we talking about here?
That's up to you.
Don't do that to me, man.
It's up to you. Dave, when he writes lyrics, he point blank told me, Richard, you spoon feed people. Let's give them something that they have to think about. And then it could be something that, because it's so abstract in some places that, you need to make it your own song for the most part. I mean, I've done it for myself when I listen to that song. So to me, it's kind of almost like when I think of a wedding and a marriage, it kind of fits into that. We could have turned that in easily just with a twist of a few lyrics, a wedding song. Some of the lyrics further go on to talk about the demons released. Well, those demons could be the demons in your own closet, not necessarily like physical, real demons, but, in the end, you would just have to ask Dave what he was thinking.
Okay. You said a word, Rich, and you were talking about, abstract. It seems like lyrically speaking that generally speaking, the lyrics are a little more abstract on Heaven Fell instead of kind of being a little more forthright on The Calf. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's maybe a little bit of a broader brush being painted lyrically. Would you agree,
Yes.
guys?
I would totally agree. You know, I tend to, and you know, that's kind of the nice thing about having Dave do all these, is because I've written so many songs that, you know, my biggest fear is that they all start sounding the same, you know, and I want to try to avoid that. And the same thing with music as well. You know, I don't, the productions are super similar because Jared produced both albums, but the songs are definitely different than what you would find on the calf.
Yep.
You know, and so it gives you a little bit more variety to, you know, as far as a listener is concerned. And so I really appreciated that about how Dave took the helm. Now, he told me just like a week ago he wants me to start writing more again. So, and you know, I'm just going to basically stick to what I know.
And that's what, you know, nothing wrong with that, Rich. And I've loved Saints since 1986 when I first heard Times In. Some can go back as far as Warriors of the Sun in 84. I just joined the train in 86. So, and I'm still on that train, still loving you guys. You guys are still bringing it. So again, a tip of the hat for this album, friends. This is a great Saint album. Matt, I want to ask you, buddy, and I want to ask you some questions too, Jared. How do you and Jerry go about, I don't know how you guys actually do it on the album. I don't know who plays what where. Matt, do you and Jerry alternate lead guitar work? And if you do, how do you all decide between the two of you who gets the solo where?
Well, you know, I've written a few songs where I just told Rich I left room for Jerry. Okay. You know, what's that song? Is it God is God? I think I told Rich, I said, hey, I wrote 2 solo sections, one's for me, one's for Jerry. Other than that, what's that?
Then on this album, I think, what was, not Fallen Armor. What's the other one? Morning Star. You left room for him on that one as well.
Yeah, I just leave room for, you know, I don't need to play every solo. You know, I'm just happy to get one of my songs on the album. I don't care if I'm playing solo.
Well, I'm seeing your name all over this album. And
yeah, I got a lot. I was going through kind of a creative period there and wrote some really good stuff that luckily Richard liked. And he helps me with a lot of it too. So he rearranges it and tweaks it, you know, and keeps it from being 7 or 8 minutes long.
Yeah. There wouldn't be anything wrong with their 7 or 8 minute Saint song, Matt. I mean, that would be awesome.
Tell Richard that. Are you listening to this, Richard?
I know you're just teasing me, Rich, but yeah, I mean, that would be awesome to have some longer songs too. I mean, that would be cool.
Well, you know, it's like I've been writing for years, you know, and seems a little more difficult to write a little, you know, a short song that really makes a statement. It's easy. It seems easier for me as a guitar player who can sit here and riff all day, you know, to just write something that's 7 or 8 minutes long, 9 minutes long.
Because you're a composer.
Yeah, and my mind doesn't stop. I just keep connecting things. But one of the things that Rich has taught me is, you know, make your ideas, get them out there, punch them, and then you're done.
I was going to say, speaking of Morningstar, now that's one that wasn't hard to understand at all. And I really appreciated that song. The message came through really clear, and it, you know, well, this whole album really rocks. So it kind of goes without saying. They all do, but just of note on that particular song, you know, the message came through pretty strong and clear on that one. So I had an appreciation for it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a good song. When I wrote that, I kind of had a little Rush influence in there, I think. A little Spirit of the Radio.
Well, and in my notes, Matt, when I was listening to that song, I just wrote down sounds like Saint 2.0.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Well, Morning Star for me, since we're on that song, and I have the credits there. It's Matt, it's you and Dave credited on the album for that one. My notes, I put another musical scorcher, and Dave unleashes another banshee wail within this song. And I feel like it was based on Isaiah 14, 12 through 17, which was a prophecy against the king of Babylon, or, Satan, Satan in the Hebrew. Rockin' song, man. It's a scorcher. 2 thumbs up.
It turned out good.
Matt, let me ask you, if you don't mind, since we were talking about one of your songs here, and then Jared, I've got some questions for you, buddy. Matt, who are your musical influences, guitar-wise?
Oh, I mean, like I said, I'm classically trained. So some of my, it goes back to, the 1800s, with some of those guys, really. Fernando Sor, Aguado, Carulli. But then, when I got born again, I got born again when I was really young. But when I went to serve the Lord, I quit playing rock guitar for like 8 or 9 years. I was about 19. I'd played hundreds of shows. I was a recording studio musician. I was one of the only guys in town who could actually read music. So I trashed it all. But when I started kind of finding my balance in my walk with the Lord and started listening again, I mean, of course, there's guys like Eddie Van Halen, Ace Frehley, Michael Schenker, Tom Schultz, Jim Croce, John Denver. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Everywhere.
Hey, Matt, could you just tell a little bit about how you came to the Lord back then? How that went?
Well, I came to the Lord when I was in Salvation Army camp. So I was about 8 years old. And I came from a Lord of the Flies family. That would be a whole nother discussion, but there was no love in my house. It was pandemonium, abusive father. It was not good. So I went to this Salvation Army camp, and I'm like, wow, these people are nice to each other. This is weird, I'd never been around people who were nice to each other, if you can imagine that. But it really made a strong impact on me, and it all revolved around, Christ and God. I never said the sinner's prayer. I never did anything but I made a decision that I was a believer. I believed in this book. I believed in that cross, and, it's just stuck with me, and it never left. It never left. And here I am. I'm 56 years old, still struggling. Still keeping the faith, but God has done so many amazing things. I think that when people get saved and they become a new creature, they put on the old man, and he who has begun a good work in you will continue to do it until, we hear all these scriptures about being born again and being renewed, but I don't think it says in there, hey, this is going to take the rest of your life to finish. So I'm still working on becoming that new creature. So,
yeah. Well, and Matt, to your point, and I'm very good about remembering scripture. I'm horrible with pinpointing the verse, if you know what I mean. But I was telling my daughter just the other day, we were having a discussion about something. And one of the things, of course, the Lord is never going to lie to us. And God himself, in Jesus the Christ, God in the flesh, he said, in this world, you will have trouble.
Oh, yeah.
The Lord point blank told us. He knows. He understands. He's our great high priest. And all points tempted as we are, but without sin. But he told us, in this world, you will. That's a promise from God. We'll have trouble. But boy, the Lord Jesus, Yeshua, said, but take heart, I have overcome the world.
That's right.
And I get an amen.
Amen.
And so I'm with you, Matt, brother. We're all brothers. We're all sheep following our good shepherd, and we're going to have troubles, but we're going to make it, aren't we?
That's right.
That's right.
And we live in a culture now with so much luxury. You know, you go back before, I mean, for the last 80, 90 years, we've really lived in a world of luxury. Like Jordan Peterson said, man, before 1895, I don't know why he used 1895. Before 1895, life was hell. Life was hard. You want a potato? You better go dig it out of the ground. Kind of hard, if you can even find one. So we live in a world where we think we shouldn't be suffering, or that we should be entitled to, you know, all this prosperity and all this freedom and all this, you know, happiness, and it's just bunk.
Yeah. But Matt, I'm gonna help out just a little bit, since the opportunity came out to talk about that lifelong process.
Yeah,
of growing in the Lord. 2 Corinthians 3:18, and we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into his image with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. So in my mind, that really talks about the fact that it's a journey.
That's a good find. That's a good find. Thank you.
Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Broad as the Gate in 2014? Is that the first album that you came on board with Saint with? I've got the catalog back here, but I can't keep up with. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to hog all the time here, but just I'll be as brief as possible. You know, I was a huge Saint fan. Warriors of the Sun '84, that was me, man. I wore that out. The first four, wore them out. The years go by, and it was about 2010, or I thought about them. I said, I wonder what those guys are doing. So I found their website, and I saw on there that you could hire Josh or Richard or someone to play in your project. And I was like, all right, I got to write something. So I started writing just for Josh. I'm like, I'm going to write this, and I'm going to send it to Josh. And I get a hold of Josh, and it was just, you know, he called me, and it was just bizarre. Because he, you know, Saint was my heroes, Rich and all those guys, John, and here I am, you know, talking to Josh about this song. So for $100, he sang on it. So I sent him my song, and I sent him $100, and he sent me back a CD with 24 vocal tracks. And I loaded them into Pro Tools, and I started listening to each one. It took me like 2 days to listen, just to listen. But that began my relationship with Josh. And then Josh and I became really good friends. He moved up here. We worked together. He lived with me for a while. And I think he was playing some of the stuff for Rich, you know, and I'm not sure Rich could tell you, but at one point Rich called me, and it was like the godfather of Christian metal is on my phone right now. I didn't know what to do.
Yep.
And so Rich and I struck up a friendship, talked about various things. And at one point he just asked me if I would play some lead. The album was basically done. If I'm correct, I think the album was done, and he sent me some tracks, and I played some leads to one of Jared's songs. I played lead, and got a little cocky and started overdubbing a few extra rhythm parts, and
and the rest is history.
Just started doing my thing, and yeah, and that's what started. That was at what, 2012? Is that when that was?
It was somewhere in there.
Broad as the Gate is it's a 2014 release.
Yeah.
But all to say, I just want to congratulate you, because you know, you're coming up on your decade-long anniversary, and so with the band, and Matt, thank you for blessing us with your skills. It's
been a pleasure, but you know, it was very interesting, because Jared would call me and say, "Could you redo this note and hold this note out longer?" He'd call me and say, "I think the vibrato's too fast on this note. Could you redo that and slow down the vibrato?" You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, let me ask you, buddy. Now, you know, try my best to do my Saint research. For you, wasn't it the Desperate Night album in 2012 that you first came on board as far as with the band, a member?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I worked on Hellblade, I think was the first album that I worked on. Yeah, it was during that show cycle that we moved things around. And then, so yeah, from then on.
So you're a decade long with the band now, which is awesome. And
I guess I am, yeah.
thank you so much for your drumming. It's excellent. Who are some of your influences, Jared, regarding the drums?
I'm going to say technically, he actually started playing in the band on Hellblade.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. Wasn't my first show was Puerto Rico, wasn't it?
Yes, but I think that you played all the drums on Hellblade, if I remember correctly.
Oh, is that going public?
I think that already went public. Yeah, I also told him that you did all the guitars on Desperate Night too. So, I think, it was definitely Desperate Night. I don't remember Brought Us the Gate, all the guitar work you did on that.
I did some, but yeah, Desperate Night pretty much
all wonderful albums. Jared, who are some of your drumming influences?
Oh man, well, so you got to obviously give the nods to the Bonhams and the Kurtz and all those guys, but I would say of the old school guys, Bonham was probably the biggest one for me. But personally, I grew up. I was fortunate to get exposed to King's X at a very young age, and man, Jerry Gaskill is just like all those guys are just freaks. And his ability to kind of just lay into the most powerful groove you've ever heard is just that spoke to me like so much more than playing a million notes and having a drum set the size of a spaceship. Like, just give me a small kit and let me hit it really hard and lay in the pocket and I'm good.
I got to tell you, brother, real quick, if you don't mind, I saw King's X for the first time, what I consider still during their classic phase. It was during their fourth album, King's X. And Jerry Gaskill, they played Moan Jam as a encore. They played Moan Jam, and Jerry, at the end of that concert, he threw one of his sticks and he came up to me and handed me a stick because I was front and center. I was a King's X freak back then. I had his drumstick.
Nice.
And that thing is beat to smithereens, man, after Moan Jam, if you can imagine. I totally get what you're saying about Jerry Gaskill. So,
yeah, guy's a machine.
Yeah. What you mentioned some of your other bands, Jared, and please forgive my ignorance, but I'd like to learn, what are some of the other bands that you've been in?
Oh, man, I've played in a lot of bands over the years. There's probably not a lot of them that would be like particularly noteworthy on a public forum, but I also do a lot of hired gun work, kind of sideman stuff, and I'll do flight dates and fill in for artists and festivals and stuff like that. But I don't know. I as far as like on the charts or anything, probably the biggest fill-in work I ever did was with a group called Falling Up. Just a short stint with them. They're friends of ours, and my old band back in the day, we used to play with them quite a bit back and forth. And their drummer broke his collarbone snowboarding like right before they were supposed to go out on the road. So they called me with like 3 days notice, like, hey, how quick can you learn our set? So that was kind of a fun one. But no, I've been really fortunate to play with a lot of just amazing people over the years, but not a lot of them would be necessarily household names.
Gotcha.
I'm learning about Jared. This is fun.
So guys, I know that Rex is going to be very interested in this, and I'll let Rex take this. I might mispronounce the name. I always want to say Versailles, but I think they pronounce it Versailles. Rex, talk about this concert coming up in Versailles, Ohio, that Saint's going to be at.
Yeah, well, they're calling it the Immortal Christian Rock Festival actually the first one. So I'm assuming they're planning on having more, and it's going to be at Versailles, Ohio, at the BMI Event Center, and it's Labor Day weekend. It's Friday through Sunday, and actually Saint is opening up on Friday night, the first concert at 6 p.m. I'm excited to actually meet you guys in person because I bought meet and greet tickets for you guys. So it'll be cool hanging out with you guys for at least a couple minutes.
So Rex, do you live in the area? Where do you live?
Yeah, I live close to Akron and Canton, Ohio. I live in Northeast Ohio, so I'm about 3 hours north of
nice.
there. So yeah, it's not too much of a thing for me to get there. So yeah, I'm really excited.
I have to drive farther than that just for practice.
Well, like I said, and you know, I'm hoping maybe I can just kind of chat with you guys. I just don't know how it's all going to work out, but
yeah,
I mean, it's I think I'm going to be hanging out with the Fear Not guys a little bit too, and possibly Rex Carroll. So yeah, it would be cool just to fellowship with you guys and just talk music, you know. So yeah, I can't wait. Actually, it's less than a month away now.
Yeah.
So friends, by the time you see this will be released a little later on in September. So when you see this, Rex will actually have met up with Saint. No doubt that Saint's going to knock it out of the park. Guys, have y'all played out at all this year or anytime since COVID? Do y'all play out at all?
No.
No, I think the last time we played was in Seattle. What was that? The Northwest Metal Fest. That was like 2020. Just before COVID.
So, yeah, was that
2019?
I think it was 19.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was 19. The summer of 19.
How do you guys keep your chops up then? Like for instance in Versailles, how do you guys practice? Does Rich or somebody negotiate the set list and then y'all just play along to the music on your albums, or?
Pretty much.
Yeah, we have some little tricks that we use where we're playing along with click tracks and studio tracks. We have different ways of kind of setting that up. But yeah, basically.
I mean, when we played in California, I had to cram in one day and record all the rhythm guitar tracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't have Jerry. Jerry was unavailable, and yeah, that was interesting. People were on YouTube going, "Where's Jerry? I hear him, but I don't see him."
Let's talk about the title, Heaven Fell. Now, Rich, I remember we discussed this song whenever you were with us this last July, the meaning. Can you disclose what the title meaning for the album is? Because you said it's kind of a twist on words.
Right. Well, Dave explained to me when he sent it to me, because he was obviously worried that I was going to go, heaven fell, heaven never fell, right? No, but basically what he wanted to do was go with the idea that when heaven came down, heaven fell, but it didn't fall. It wasn't like, you know, how it actually reads. So that's basically it on that.
It's when Christ returns, basically, right?
Right.
That's the way I interpreted it. It says, when heaven fell, we met our maker now and forever. And it says elsewhere, the sun came down. And I just interpreted that to mean Christ's return. And Rich, I have the song credited to you and Dave. And that's my choice. If somebody were to say, okay, Kent, pick two singles from this album, I would say The Chosen One, and I would say Heaven Fell. A great straight ahead rocker. There's some neat riffage to this song. So just a great song. Heaven Fell.
I looked at Heaven Fell too as the only begotten Son when Christ was born. That's
Right.
kind of how I looked at it.
Yep.
Because I mean, he came into this world, you know, became flesh and dwelt among us. That's how one of the ways I looked at it. So
I saw a poster once, guys. This bears saying to our friends out there, I saw a poster once, and it had a picture of Buddha and Muhammad and Confucius and Tutankhamun and you name it, all these figures. And it said above them, there are many men who would be gods, there are many men who would be gods. And below that, there was a picture of a little baby. And it says, but there is only one God who would become man. And there's the difference.
Wow.
You know, like you're saying, Matt, you know, Jesus the Christ, you know, God reached down to man. So that's a beautiful, we serve a wonderful Lord. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not holier than thou, but this song is, and that's credited to you, Matt, and to Dave. Very interesting, the dynamics at the forefront of this. We got some clean harmonics that you're doing. And then you guys just rip our heads off with the pulsating rhythm in the rest of this song.
You are forgiven. I'll take the blame. You live in shame. Holier than thou. Holier than thou. Holier than thou.
Dave's got this banshee scream in there, locking the doors and avoiding creation, falling apart at the seams, spreading like fire and flowing like rivers, nothing like I've ever seen. We are holier than thou. Rich, you're not going to tell me if I ask the meaning, are you?
Well, again, I didn't write it, but when I hear that, well, I'll give you a little inside scoop on those lyrics. Dave, when he wrote those, he goes, this was back in 2020, around probably March and the beginning of COVID. And so you can kind of see how the COVID thing correlates to what he wrote there, right? But what it really means for me is how we as Christians, we beat each other up, you know, and treat each other poorly, and we're so judgmental and all those things that we do to each other. I mean, we're the only army that'll shoot our own soldiers, right? So I think that it for me at least, that's how I read it. You know, we just tear people up and stack them up and next, because we're holier than thou.
I kind of took it, you know, as saying to me, it was kind of like about existing religiously and failing to live. And by religiously, I don't mean Christian.
Right.
You mean virtue signaling and doing things that will impute virtue unto you without doing the work that it takes to actually have the virtue.
Yeah.
Well,
Preacher.
and that song just has a gallop after the first introduction soft part. It just has a gallop, what I call a gallop to it, Matt. And yeah, I mean, it's a great song.
Well, that song's a combination of Bach, Iron Maiden, and Randy Rhoads. That's how I look at it.
You can't go wrong with that. No way.
I actually purposefully steal from my influences and kind of go with it sometimes.
Don't we all?
If you listen, like that classical part in the middle, I always wanted to write something like Revelation Mother Earth off the Blizzard of Oz album. I mean, that album was my schoolmaster when I was just a kid, you know. And I always thought Randy Rhoads was the greatest, you know. I didn't mention him earlier, influence, but Randy's probably one of my biggest influence, because he's the one who made classical guitar cool. You know, classical guitar was cool, and man, I went for it. So that has that middle section of the classical thing and a little bit of Bach on the intro. So That's my favorite song. The thing about that song is Jared worked a miracle with that song, because it was a good song. But when I got back the master and listened to it with headphones, it became a epic song.
My thighs are still burning.
Yeah.
From the devil.
Kent, you mentioned the dynamics in that song, and that I think is the one word that sticks out, because I played that for a few of my friends right here in my studio, and just the look on their face said it all. When it gets quiet and then these other guitars kick in, wow, that blew my mind. Still does.
Well, and it's a good first song opener too. You know, that is the way to start out the album, with something like that.
I didn't know that. Is it? Oh, I guess it is.
Yes, it is.
First song?
Yep.
And then we get to Creature. It's another pulsing rocker. Jerry Johnson and Dave get the credit for this one.
The night is young and we gotta soar off to the firmament away from the sun. Creature lives among the mountainside. Preacher, let the children lie. Teacher, take me their eternal life. Meet you on the other side.
There's a very cool time signature change kind of up toward the song's back half. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Jared. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. There's just a little change up with the way the time signature is on it. It gave it a little dimension to it. I can't describe it. Forgive me. Great song, bro. It's a pulsing rocker. Can anybody tell me, and I'll spare you guys, I won't go through all the album lyrics, but there's one little portion that says, creature lives among the mountainside. Creature, let the children lie. What does the creature on the mountainside mean?
Well, I think that the creature is, where it says giving sermons on the back of the bus. This was a childhood experience. Dave told me about this, of him growing up, and he kind of, had like a bad experience at this point in time in his life with Christianity and religion and all that. And so as the song is kind of like points in that direction, I think, more than anything. But I think that it's about, a pastor type scenario. You'd have to ask him though, because I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Sure. Well, I wish Dave was here. Now, Rich, you and Dave are credited for Dance of the Gods. This is like a musical swaying sledgehammer. It's a slightly slower pace, but it's like a sledgehammer. Tell us about this song.
Well, Dance of the Gods, and I didn't know this until I was at church about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the pastor started talking about that there's actually a dance of the gods, and it's the Trinity as how they work together. This song is nothing about that.
Okay.
This song is more about religion, false teachers, certain televangelists, I suppose, but mainly religion and how you're drawn into doctrines and things of sort, just to be saved per se. And it kind of, hopefully it points people to the direction not to take it personally, because it's not really aimed at anybody personally, you know, but our salvation isn't to be focused on what teaching we're receiving or any certain teacher. It's all based on what Jesus did for us.
Yep. I kind of interpreted it as, you know, ministers or preachers or priests tickling people's ears instead of teaching the truth. That was kind of my notes.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a nerdist that way. You know, I scour. I'm still that guy that reads all the liner notes and the lyrics and all that. So Make Believe, that's another one of yours, Rich, you and Dave, and great metal groove and swing. Just a cool little tune. I kind of felt like this was, many people say there's no God and say he's make-believe whenever they are the ones who are pretending. I could be very far off in my interpretation, but I just thought it was neat because that was kind of flipping the script, you know. People want to say God's make-believe, but they're the ones who are pretending.
That's pretty much it. You pretty much nailed it.
He's gonna catch you when you fall. Why don't you want me when I'm the one that makes you breathe? Why don't you need me when I'm the one that's make-believe?
Jared, did your thighs burn? You mentioned your thighs burning on Holier Than Thou. Let's get to this song, Vengeance, which I absolutely love. Now, guys, this song smoked so hard, it gave me smoker's cough at the end. A steamroller of a song. It'll bowl over anything standing against it. Talk to me about this song, Jared. What was it like for you as a drummer to play Vengeance?
Painful. Yeah,
it's
well,
no picnic for me either.
Yeah, there's a couple of these that are they're barn burners for sure. But no, I mean, outside of Saint, I've been mostly playing in like pop country bands for the last few years. So man, some of these chops were. It took a little bit of work.
I absolutely love Vengeance. Wonderful song. And, you know, I don't know, Matt, because this is credited in the album notes to you and Rich and to Dave. The soloing scales on this, to my novice ears, meaning, well, they just remind me of classical Saint in some passages. Like I think it's on Too Late for Living. Maybe it's The Return. Was that the instrumental on Too Late for Living, Rich, The Return?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember. Anyway, but there's some soloing scales on this song, and it just kind of harkens to classical Saint, and I thought it was just great.
Nothing wrong with that.
The guitars are pretty high in the mix, which is pretty cool, and that I just called it a fast, full throttle song. But yeah, I noticed the guitars seem to be pretty high up in the mix too on that, which is cool.
Yeah, I whenever possible, I love throwing the guitars like almost obnoxiously loud. You can't do it on every song, but you get that right energy, and that just drives it in a way that you just can't do it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Exile of Cain, Matt, another one of yours, and Dave's. That's another barn burner. Jared, let's talk about in verse 2. You play this to my ears, this pulsating rhythmic offbeat. Do you know what I'm talking about? It gets to verse 2 and you're doing something.
We all know what you're talking about.
It's killer, man. There's this change up, and I'm like,
I know
wow.
exactly what you're talking about. Richard sent that to me. He's like, what do you think of this? I'm like, I kind of like it. It was so different because like I said, I programmed kind of, monkey drums to them. So when Jared gets a hold of them, man, they just take on a whole new life. And that definitely did. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, the first thing I do, and this is not a knock, but when the guys are using loops and stuff for the main recording writing process, the first thing I do when I get them is turn all that off and just listen to what the guitars and vocals are doing and try to kind of envision where I want the drums to go and how I want the song to move.
You turn my loops off?
First thing, man.
What?
Don't even listen to them.
That's funny. See, learning more about Jared.
Well, it helps me come at it from a fresh perspective, and that's how I'm able to mess it all up.
Well, it wasn't a mess up. I hope that you guys, when we as fans and those who appreciate your art, I hope that it's a blessing to you guys when we notice things.
Absolutely.
It wasn't lost on me. I'm like, this is totally cool. It's like Jared just flipped the rhythmic script here for a minute,
What's funny is, and you probably wouldn't know this, but he does that behind my solos all the time. We don't do it together. That's right. The strangest thing. We don't do it together. It's not like Jared and I are sitting down and I'm playing these solos and he gets it done. By the time he gets it, I'm pretty much done, like polished, done, because I give everything to Richard. And so Richard and I share full session files in Reaper, the full session, so he gets all the tracks, he sees all the edits, he sees what plugins I'm using. And so, and he makes sure everything, is presentable for the cat ear man, Jared. And we're not together doing that. I guess that's the weirdest thing.
Well, you guys have me fooled. Everything sounds so tight and so wonderful. And we want to welcome Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Yay!
Woo!
Yeah, thank God for this interview because I'm on a roof right now and it's 99 degrees.
Well,
yeah, working Saturday.
Are you on your lunch break, Dave?
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
We were discussing some of your lyrics and just saying how much we loved them. Dave, while we got you, just want to say to all you Saint guys that this new album, we love the calf, fans of Saint, but Heaven Fell you guys knocked it out of the park. It's a wonderful album. Dave, you have such a great metal rasp. You can wail like a banshee when you want to. And this album and the calf, it's all just proof in the pudding. And thank you so much for blessing us with what you and the rest of the guys in Saint do. And Dave, if I may ask, vocally speaking, who are some of your influences?
Well, I was raised since I was 16 doing covers. So that was my career basically for 20 years while I was doing construction too. But I was singing to everybody and I was learning from their breathing techniques and their rasp. And my original voice really doesn't sound like anybody that I can pinpoint of who it sounds like. Maybe a little Sammy or a little, because I was more into the, the butt rock and, the 90s White Snake and stuff like that. Yep. So, but yeah, definitely Rob Halford. I was brought up on that.
Gotcha. You do have your own distinct voice and sound, but Rex and I were having a discussion and we were just singing the praises of Heaven Fell because, Rich had blessed us with a little you know, for this interview, he blessed us with some tunes and with the album to listen and prepare for an episode here. But are you familiar with Mark Tornillo from Accept?
No, yeah, definitely Accept. But is that the singer?
Mark came on board with 2010's Blood of the Nations.
Yeah.
Whenever Udo left, Mark came on board, and he's just wonderful. And you don't sound just like Mark, but you guys are in the same wheelhouse. You got this great metal rasp and this heft to your voice, and you're just rocking it, man. So thank you.
Yeah, that's what I remember Udo for sure, but I'll have to check out Mark.
Blood of the Nations is the first album he came on board with.
Yeah,
it's terrific. It's a great.
Because I'm not ashamed to say that, you know, anything I hear, I'd love to try to pick up. You know, like I'm still trying to get these Josh screams down. You know what I mean? And I'm beating myself up about it too. Trust me. But it still sounds a little thin than what he does. But you know, I can hear some other stuff that I can do that he can't. So whatever. But I always try to learn from other singers.
Well. And, you know, may I just say that, you know, I mean, I grew up with Saints, and, you know, here's my collection, and I love and respect Josh, and I always will. But, you know, Dave, I love this album just as much as I love this album right here. And if I may say, as a fan, you have your own distinct voice, Dave, and I would hope that you would just be Dave, because it's working. And I think when fans hear Heaven Fell, there's an old adage, brother, that says the proof's in the pudding. And so I celebrate Saint, you know, all the way back from, you know, from here, Warriors of the Sun, I celebrate Saint, and I celebrate Saint, you know, all the way up through here in Heaven Fell. Just keep rocking it, brother. And
that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Well, it's the truth. And I can say it because it's honest. So thank you guys.
Well, and I just want to say this whole album just, I can't think of the right word, but I was talking with Ken about it. It just has a whole cohesiveness about it. I mean, everything, it's just the whole album just fits. I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but like every song is wonderful, and it just all, there's no like, oh, that's like, you know, way off compared to these other songs. It just, the whole thing just flows and is just great as an album altogether. You know, you just have those albums where like, every track is just killer and there's no skippers. And that's what this album is.
I'm back with a vengeance. I can't take any more. I'm back for the attack. I'm back.
We got the skippers in the closet still. So
What's funny about you saying that is, you know, I just got to keep pointing back to the fact that we're all in our own little worlds when we write, you know, and we just share the files and it came out. It's interesting to hear you say that. So praise God. I mean, there's something going on here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something great's going on. And skippers, you mentioned skippers. Was that you, Matt, or you, David, that said skippers?
Dave said that.
Well, he mentioned the skipper ones are the ones that, you know, he said there wasn't really a weak one. And we've had some weak melodies. We've had some weak songs. And, you know, we just kind of threw them in the closet and they're still there, you know. So when we're all past and gone, they can, you know, root them up and put another CD out probably.
Well, that begs the question. I don't know if there are any unreleased songs for this album. And Jared, are you kind of running the studio there with Burley Sound Studio? Do you kind of archive the Saint stuff like that you guys don't use?
Sometimes it depends on like what like where it was tracked, how far we went with it. A lot of times the original demos are stuff that the guys are doing at their houses, and so you know, they'll send me like a stereo mix of it, but I don't necessarily have the session for archiving.
Okay. Dave, let's talk about really quick. I want to ask you about a couple lyrics, especially the one for Creature, if I may, you being the primary lyricist. And just tell me what you can. I'm that nerd who enjoys, you know, delving in and chewing on the fat on a topic. let me quote some of your lyrics. Giving sermons on the back of the bus, trading patience with a personal lust. Pass the goblet of pure nature's wine. Say it's not yours, you know it's mine. Creature lives among the mountainside. Preacher, let the children lie. Teacher, take me there, eternal life. Meet you on the other side. Dave, can you wax poetic or philosophical and tell me what we're looking at there?
The night is young and we gotta soar off to the firmament away from the sun. Preacher lives among the mountainside. Preacher, let the children lie. Teacher, take me there in total life. Meet you on the other side.
Well, first of all, I think I'm just a vehicle of these lyrics. I have nothing that's ever on the top of my head, or I'm going to write about this or write about that. Those usually don't come out good. I was talking to my brother one day, and he said, I remember you used to give sermons on the back of the bus. And I'm like, wow, that is a great opening line. And then ever since that started, the song, I was like, hey, how about taking a bus to heaven? You know, let's picture that. And, you know, you're still in the sins of earth, you know, drink a goblet, you know, take it with personal lust and all that. And then you start hitting the air and you start getting further in this sky, and you see the creature on the side of the mountain, you know, and you see it leaving. And you know, you're having a flashback, preacher, let the children cry, and you're going through this metamorphosis, and then you finally reach the sky, you know. And I just called it Creature.
Okay. Well, now, David, did you say that it was your brother saying that you used to preach to him on the back of a bus?
No. So they all dropped out going to church at the age of like 10, or not even 10, it's like 7. I used to get up and tie my own shoes, get on the bus, and always continue going to church while they stayed home. And he said he remembers going a couple times with me, and I'd be giving sermons on the back of the bus, whatever that means.
Yeah.
You know, just whether it's just, you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, you know, whatever. I was just going for it. And yeah, so I stayed steady in church for, you know, all through my childhood.
Very cool.
For some reason, it was kind of ironic that I got in the Christian metal band, because even all the other originals that I wrote always had this mean tone kind of to drag them in, but always had a good message of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tried to avoid sounding biblical or whatever, religious, but it was just so natural to me, so that it turned out perfect that this happened.
Talk to me, Dave, about we were discussing the song "Chosen One." A great sense of melody. I think Matt laid down the melody, and then, you know, your vocals just shine through that one. What's going on there, lyrically speaking? What did you have in mind when you were talking about "Chosen One"?
Well, first of all, I'm the chosen one. So
Okay.
for some reason, I was like, I'm going to take this album. Rich, can you give me a little more writing ability? You know, I feel like I'm the chosen one on this one. I've always felt in some way, I felt blessed and, you know, chosen. That's just lead singer ego is all that is. But basically, like I said, you know, I didn't try to invent any writings and anything. I just go through it, and then I start visualizing these children and who's to blame, and can't remember the exact lyrics right now, but
Well, if I may, it says the evil is rising, the elders losing grip, the children are worried there's no one to forgive. In the morning they will sacrifice to live forever and ever and choose a life to live in paradise. I am the chosen one, and I talk to the devil with an angel's tongue. And then it goes on to say, into the mighty water will be thrashed and torn.
Yeah, so that's basically children are on their own. The elders are losing all grip. And when the demons are released on the earth or whatever, the children are hunting them down in the dust.
Okay.
And I am the chosen one. That's it. A lot of my lyrics will go back and forth from you to me or him, you know, from above, or all of a sudden you're looking at him. It's very vague to where you could put your own meaning to it. And, but you can definitely define it if you know, sat down and wanted to get the answer that you're looking for.
Gotcha.
That's interesting. I never knew that, but that's kind of like, you know, Psalm chapter 2 does a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Where you're hearing from different aspects of Holy Spirit and from God. And
yeah, it leaves something for the listener to create on their own instead of,
yeah,
you know, straight front, you know, this is how it is, you know. So anyway, I try to keep it vague.
Hey, David, can you give us your take a little bit on Heaven Fell, the song?
So just heaven on earth, you know, that's basically, how can I say heaven on earth? And it started out Heaven Fell. And my wife said, Heaven fell? And I'm like, yeah. So I went off on that. And then I started picturing heaven falling with, you know, stars were pins and needles and going through the Milky Way. And I actually, stole some lyrics from an old 1920 song, you know, the stars, pins and needles, you know, stuff like that. So it really, it just all came together. I do a lot of driving for work. So I'm driving through these fields and I'm looking up at the sky and, you know, it all came together by the time I hit my brother's house, my brother again.
So there was some discussion earlier about maybe whether this was focusing more on when Christ came to earth or when he's returning, or is it all of that?
No, this is just finally heaven fell, heaven is on earth, there is no more hell.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the angels are done working and we're all going to be on earth now, you know, kind of like heaven being on earth. So
okay,
kind of a different twist there.
So more
like the new heaven and the new earth.
Yeah, more like when the Holy City comes down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And David, if I could step back a little bit, could you tell us how you became the singer in the band, how that happened?
Yeah, Mr. Wizard is a cover band I'm also in. We do classic rock and we're doing casinos and big clubs. And Richard just saw me. I think it was Richard and Jerry came and saw me. They knew I was there at Spirit Mountain Casino. And they just said, hey, we need you. You know, we love your voice and your stage presence. And we think you could fit this band. So I went and just started recording with them. Most of the songs he had written and just wanted someone to sing them. And then I wrote a couple more while we were going at it on that first Cap album.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a little more detailed than that. Jerry and I actually rented, we rented rooms at that casino on purpose just to go see him. And I had never spoken with him at this point, but Jerry saw him and said, you got to see this guy. He's amazing. And he truly is.
Yes. Yes.
my first encounter with Dave was I actually ran sound for Mr. Wizard probably 10, 12 years ago in Salem. I don't even know if you remember that.
No, but that could have been Derek Zane, though. He was another singer was in Mr. Wizard. Have I been with them that long?
I could be a little off on the year, but it was you.
Oh, okay. Well, good. And what venue was it?
I believe it was at Roxy.
Oh yeah. Okay. You probably looked a lot different too, didn't you?
Yeah, probably. I think I had a mohawk back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Roxy. Oh, cool. All right. No, I had no idea. That's awesome.
He's gonna catch you when you fall. Why don't you want me when I'm the one that makes you breathe? Why don't you need me when I'm the one that's
By the time this releases, friends out there, this will be toward the latter part of September, and Heaven Fell will have been released toward the either late August here or very early September, hopefully before the Versailles gig. So Rich, one more time, Boone's Overstock is where the initial orders, the pre-orders, and then they can also go to Saintsite, site.com. Is that correct? To order from you guys, correct? Okay, we'll post those links below. Jared, Matt, Rich, David, thank you guys. And what is your assessment? If you could give just a brief assessment of Heaven Fell in your own words, what would each of you wish to say about it?
Well, hoping to bring a good light to rocky world that we got in. A lot of this is has to do with the 2020. That's when I started really finding my own voice and originality for writing. I mean, it was all shaky before that, and this pretty much is in the perfect time for that metamorphosis.
Rich, what were you going to say? Rich or Matt?
I'm still thinking.
I'm just thankful that, it all came together the way it did. I mean, I've got a great team. Jared does such great production work. Matt and Jerry are probably the best guitar players in the league. Of course, we got Dave. He's just awesome. He's been such a great person to work with. And I'm just excited that this is coming out. I think that people are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm glad I'm glad we were able to finally wrap it up and release it to the public, because it's been like exciting, but also a little annoying having to sit on it for this long, because we wanted to get it out there to everybody, and I'm glad it finally saw the light.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to say about the teamwork is probably the key to this whole album. It's how everybody worked together.
Yeah.
But I got a friend who has a studio up here, and I mean, he's got like Justin Bieber coming in. He's got he's a big guy, he's from London, or he works out of London, but his studio is right here in Idaho. And I have not heard anything this good come out of that studio. This album is so amazing. It's just like, it's shocking for me, because I've been in a lot of big studios, and to see how this album came together with me in this little 9x10 room, and Rich at home, and then what Jared does, it should encourage everybody. You don't need a big studio nowadays. It's it's like home production. It's talent. It takes pure engineering talent, and they've helped me up my game so much. Working with these guys, and like some of the recordings I'm doing now on my own are sounding so much better. But when you listen to this album, you put on your headphones and you just sit there and listen to it, you'll notice the production value is really quite high.
I am itching to, Rich, thank you so much. We were privy to the songs, you know, the pre-release to help us prep for this episode, but I'm itching to get that CD so I can pop it in my stereo, put on the headphones, and enjoy your all's craft, and then what Jared does for the, you know, and Jared, thank you for not giving up on this, because I've been jonesing for this album for a long time. So
I'll second that. Thank you, Jared.
Yes,
He did it,
Jared.
we hope and pray. I mean, Saint has been back on the scene since roughly 03, 04 within the battle. Such a great album. I'm so proud and happy for you guys because you're still bringing it. Each one of you. Thank you so much. Dave, keep being who you are in the Lord because you're wonderful. I love your voice. Just keep on rocking. Mike, do you have scripture closeout, buddy?
I do.
Talk to us.
Now that I have a better handle on Heaven Fell, we're going to read about it. So Revelation 21, verses 1 through 4. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also there was no more sea. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them and be their God, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away.
That's good words. Thank you.
So that proves that I'm just a vehicle for these lyrics, because I never saw that scripture before, and it just perfectly synonymous with what that is all about. That is awesome. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, Rex is going to be able to see you in Versailles, Ohio, September the 3rd.
Nice.
But I'd like to meet you guys in the New Jerusalem. Can we make that? Can we book that?
Yeah.
Day?
Go book it.
You're on.
All right.
The sooner the better.
Amen to that, man. I'm ready. I am ready. Guys, we're going to close it out here and say goodbye to our viewers. But if you don't mind, stick around for one more moment after we close it out. Okay. Thank you all so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. This is the legendary Saint. Rock on. Take care.